So welcome to Proof of Work call number 3. We're heading into the end of week 5, and I'm telling you, like, it just speeds by no matter how many times I'm doing this. So here's Michelle, and um, just for a little bit of housekeeping before we get started, where you should be, like, it's going to look different for every person, but like where you want to be right now is having like some semblance of a daily, oh, I want to hug that dog, a daily practice, a daily physical practice that includes a note taken in your proof of work log, some type of squat training, balance training, and feet work. And if that's all you're doing, consistently showing up for 25 minutes every single day for yourself, that is proof of work. So that's like the solid foundation that you want to be building. And I don't know about you, but it's taken me a couple of years to like get a solid 25 minutes every day, no matter what. And then where else you want to be is having some good practice with the core concepts. So we're going to be working on core concepts 1 through 8 today. And then next week, so Wednesday we begin week 6, which will be the last 2 core concepts, hardware and software, and maybe pain inputs, I think, or whatever 9 and 10 are, and 11 and 12. So all by week 6, we will have covered all 12 core concepts. And then week 7 is a regroup week where you can catch up on all the things that maybe you need to catch up on. You can practice studying, you can get yourself into the new community, because eventually we're going to migrate out of Slack and into Kajabi with like the other people, and we'll have our own Foot Nerd circle in there that's closed, but we're going to be going into like this city of almost 11,000 people right now. And then within that, we are going to have our little Foot Nerd circle. So we're going to merge Slack into that, and that's going to be one place. So those are like, there's some pretty intensely humongous things happening for us at the Foot Collective. And so we just want to make sure that you all get there seamlessly and you finish your training. So that week 7 is a little bit of like a catch-up week, just taking a breath, getting reorganized, regrouping, checking with your objectives. Do you have the clarity? Did you ever start putting your 3 or 2 objectives down with clarity? And then do you need to revisit that and see where you are now and maybe nuance those again? And then the 8 weeks 8 through 12 is you continuing with your daily practice, your physical practice, your squat training, your balance training, and your footwork, whatever that means for whatever level you're at, along with taking a note in your log, and practicing the core concepts and planning for teaching your event in week 11. So that's where it gets like, everything is happening comprehensively, right? So like you're gonna, in week 11, ideally, I know that it doesn't always work out, but we're trying to make sure that we can get you all graduated and have your shoes optional walk or your event taught in week 11, and then graduate in week 12. And we essentially will synthesize and celebrate your accomplishment. So how does that all sound to you? Good. Does it sound like what I'm experiencing on my end, like facilitating? Is that what you're experiencing, receiving, and doing on your end as a student of the Foot Nerd program? Okay. Because I don't know, you're like people in my computer. And then reach out anytime if you have questions. I check in every day, more than once a day, and I'll do whatever I can to help you. So let's just jump right in, okay? So the format is gonna be like it has been the last 2 times. I'll call on you we'll start with the newest topics and work backwards. What I wanna do today is I want you to think of the topic that you have the least, or you're the least comfortable to speak about. So I'm asking you to take a risk here, because this is like us and we're like a Foot Nerd family. And I want you to take a risk and teach the topic that you are the least comfortable teaching today. So you're going to give your two juicy nuggets. You have your list of from 1 through 8, and I want you to look at the core concepts that we're working on. Pick the thing that you don't like teaching, that you don't understand, and then you're going to teach for 5 minutes about it. What do you think about that? Okay, and Marie, you're going to go first.
Hi there, talk about put me on the spot. I am very badly unprepared. I jumped off the foot nerd wagon last week, so I am just give me a course concepts, and I am about as unprepared as they come. So, and I will try and talk about it.
Okay. But first, give us your juicy nuggets. Like, give us 2 things you've learned about yourself in the last 2 weeks since the last time we met. Tell us things you've learned about yourself, and then if you want me to assign you a core concept, I'll be happy to do that too.
Okay. I have learned, I think that when it gets painful, that's okay. And I can keep going. I think this is my second time around doing this, the 12-week session. And the first time I was trying to do the 90-90 sitting position, and it completely knocked me out of whack. Had bad back issue, lower back issues, and it kind of inflamed those, and my torso was, and just everything ached. And then on top of that, I got COVID, of course. But anyway, and I thought, okay, well, I'll just kind of sit it out and see if the pain goes away. And obviously, eventually it did. But I didn't get back on the bandwagon soon enough and start almost working through the pain. Does that make sense?
So listen, before you go on, I was thinking that this might be a helpful thing to plan, just like an open office hours, because when you're talking about your golden nuggets, I have questions, and I'm sure other foot nerds have questions about what you're talking about too, like sitting in 90-90 and like getting back pain so bad that it sidelines you for a couple of weeks. Like, I would like to explore that further. So I think I'm going to plan an office hour or an hour and a half where you can just jump on. And Nick Holt and I will host these from time to time. So I'm going to do that, and I'll try to, hopefully it'll be good time zones or whatever. But I'm interested in what's happening for you there. But please go on. So.
And this time round, I've been enjoying I've kind of joined the Kajabi community, and I've been really enjoying going through all the little videos and everything. I must admit, I have tried the 90-90 sitting position again, possibly not as much as last time, but I'm enjoying doing the exercises a lot more, and it's helped me get more regular doing daily practices. I haven't done the same exercises every single day, and sometimes some days are more regular than others. So I think that's what I've learned about my pain level and working through it, and also just to find exercises for the minute which are keeping me coming back every day, which I'm finding fun, and which are keeping me coming back every day to, you know, to check in every day, and as proof of work.
Wonderful. Okay, so do you want to pick your own concept, or do you want to have me do it?
No, go ahead, you choose one for me.
Okay, I'm going to give you first principles then.
Oh my goodness.
Specifically, let's talk about the SAID principle, specific adaptation to impose demands. I'll have you explain that.
The first principle, my mind has gone completely blank. Can you remind me of this?
This is great though. So I'll give you the cues. So SAID's principle, the first principles are the most fundamental foundational concepts that we agree to be true, that we all agree to be true. When it comes to the Foot Nerd program and how we approach health, we agree that the body is a self-organizing and a self-healing machine, organism, and that it adapts to the inputs that we give it. So the SAID principle is specific adaptations to imposed demands. All that means is that our body will adapt to whatever it is that we give it. It's our best friend. And so like, if we give it chair sitting for 8 hours a day, it's going to be like, okay, that's what you want me to do. I'm going to do this so good. And I'm going to clench your hips, and I'm going to, I'm going to make your glutes go to sleep. And this is what you want me to do. Likewise, if you're walking barefoot, for 5 miles a day in nature, the body will adapt to that over time too. So first principles can be debated and argued with if new information is presented, and everybody agrees that that new information makes sense, and so then we can incorporate new gold standards. So we remain open-minded about first principles, but they are the foundation. And then in our culture, our foot nerd culture, these are the 3 first principles that drive everything that we do. That the body is a self-healing machine, organism, that it's self-organizing, that it will organize itself based on the inputs that we give it. So does that ring a bell?
It does ring a bell now, yeah.
We'll come back around, and then, or anything you want to say about that or add to that, and then maybe we'll come back around and I'll have you give it a go again.
I guess it's, I suppose it's mainly structure over function, isn't it? So you're applying your walking barefoot inside to adapting to outside. So your foot will adapt to the changes in the terrain, and walking in grass, walking over pebbles, and over time, you may get a few calluses. It may feel very painful, first of all, but over time, instead of holding on to those toe muscles and clenching the foot because it's too painful, you gradually accept it and let your foot relax so it can accept what it's feeling underneath, and that will change the fascia and the sole of the foot enough so that the foot can adapt to its new environment.
Yes.
Is it okay? Yes.
Okay. So how about Melanie? You want to give us your nuggets and whatever you're least comfortable teaching. Thank you, Marie, by the way, for just.
That's all right. Thank you.
All right, we'll see how long my video lasts. If I start going disco, I'm gonna have to turn it off as I go disco.
Well, at least we got to see your face.
See, if you get me live, you don't get my face, but if you get me on a recording, then you get my face.
We'll deal with it. We'll take it.
Thank you so much for actually, having a different time. It's lovely to be here live and in person, so to speak. So for me, my 2 nuggets, the first, which just kind of hit now, actually, which kind of surpassed one of mine, was something you said, was that it took you a couple years to build a consistent practice.
A consistent 20-minute practice.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, and the fact that, yes, we start again and we show up, and that is what I've been doing, and that I'm not alone in the fact that sometimes we fall off and then we get back up and we just keep going. And then my other nugget was really about balance, because that's one of the big things that I'm working on, especially with my left foot. And that it really depends kind of on the time of day that I'm doing it, how tired I am, how I'm feeling, how stressed I am, or how relaxed I am. Like if all these little bits and pieces that feed into it, that I'm not necessarily consciously aware of unless I'm actually like tuning in and like really dialing it in to be like, oh, this is easier because I'm more relaxed. So yeah, those are my two nuggets. And then I'm going to try talking about pain because it's a new concept. Well, new for this week. Not so new to me, but not so new to most people, I think. And so as I understand pain, it is feedback from the body that the body is hoping that we listen to it and learn from it. Now, that being said, in our society and as a person, we're not necessarily tuned in to the quietest pain signals that our bodies are giving us. And so they'll keep getting louder until it starts actually taking away the things that we enjoy doing. So this is where learning to tune into the pain signal and using it as a tool for feedback and learning and adaptations in the interim, and not for long periods of time, is beneficial. And that's what I got for pain.
Yeah. And pain is interesting too, because one of my teachers said that the brain understands in words and the body understands in sensations and feelings. And that our job as like a human, when it comes to pain or any emotion or sensations in our body, is to have the two understand the languages of each other. Like
Yes.
it's essentially like what will, and this wasn't in our notes, but I have like an issue with pain, like so many people do, because pain is very tricky and elusive in that like our body just wants to protect ourselves. So if we have had repetitive pain for a long period of time, but all of those injuries are healed, the brain doesn't necessarily know that, right? So like we have to be so encouraging and careful, and it can be a real psychological journey to mess around with pain. But I love the idea that the brain speaks in words and the body speaks in sensations, and then that we as a human kind of culture, we really overemphasize the brain and the thinking and the intellectual part, so that we ignore all those really subtle pain signals that you're talking about, and we just override that best friend who speaks a little different language.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for that, then.
Thank you.
Who wants to go next? Andy.
I will go next.
Andy, we hug you.
Thank you. I'll receive a hug. So as far as my two nuggets, I'd say echoing off of what Melanie was saying about timing, that's something that I think a couple times over the last couple of weeks I've had the presence of mind to take notes about that as well, or to at least think about and consider that in terms of like, if it's at the end of a work day or something like that, it's going to be a little bit, I'm going to be fatigued and having done some repetitive work and things like that. So maybe a balanced routine, while being invigorating, maybe I'm not going to show up the best or something like that as I would nice and refreshed at 11 o'clock on Saturday, something like that, when I didn't have to work. So being compassionate and forgiving and understanding with myself always is helpful in that regard. And so I don't have to, I don't really hold myself to a hugely high standard anyways, in terms of like, I'm not unreasonable with my expectations of myself. I know the other demands on me, but it's nice to have these little reminders that kind of fill in the cracks as well. So so that's one of them. And then the other one is, I would say, I'm definitely noticing very, very subtle changes in the way that I am, in the way that I'm showing up, basically. Like, first of all, like I am taking, there's glaring differences in some of the ways that I'm moving and in some of the, the numbers that I'm getting when I'm tracking time in squat and time in balance, things like that. It's definitely changing radically. I think there was a turning point in the last week or two where something just clicked, and things are going well, and it's encouraging, and so I'm pleased with that. So the topic I would like to choose is balance. That's one that's intimidated me. I think the importance of it, like it's while all of the core principles are obviously important in their own way, I think balance is just one that stands out to me. Maybe I just fall into walls a lot, and that bothers me. So I need to work on my balance. Anyways, balance is the body's ability to adapt to external circumstances and to external forces. Specifically, physical balance would be the body's center of mass being able to stay within the body's base of support. So, and that would be with regard to gravity, against gravity, or against other external circumstances. So your ability to stay on a beam or to stand on one foot, or even to walk, all bipedal movement is balance completely. It's being on one foot and then being on the other foot, and the ability to manage the load to shift between them as effectively and efficiently as possible. It's a feedback loop. So our feet are sensors. They have a lot of proprioceptors. They tell us where our body is in space. They send this message to our brain. Our brain receives the message, makes the decision about what best to do next, and then sends that message of what to do back to the lower leg, the lower limbs, kind of fine-tuning muscles, the ones that make small shifts in order to take the appropriate action. So that can be improved by improving the signal. It can be improved by improving the proprioceptors. So using them more is going to improve them. It's going to help them receive those signals more effectively. And then with practice, you can also improve the way the signal is, or the speed and the efficiency with which the signal is sent to the brain. And then you can improve the processing speed and the way that the brains sends the signal back to the muscles. And then you can improve it by increasing the access that you have to all of those muscles. And so then doing daily balance work, and then the stretching and mobility work to increase that access can have a great effect on our balance, which we can always improve our balance no matter our age or our ability. So what I have on balance.
And lately it's so funny because lately I've been working on taking away like the certain sensory inputs, like working on the beam with eyes closed. Like my tennis game is improving,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big jump, but I noticed since I have taken my arms away, like when you don't have your arm, because I don't know about y'all, but when I get on that balance beam, the limbs go flailing. I'm all,
Oh yeah.
but so I've been working on taking my arms away and then playing on the soulmate with my eyes closed, and then getting on the round beam with my eyes open, like just making things a little bit harder, like sensory deprivation a little bit with eyes and arms, and then getting on the beam eyes open, and it's like, oh my God, I can stay here for an hour.
Nice.
So there's so much we can do with balance, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's a shame that I can't tell you how many like fall prevention and physical therapy. Like, it's just so sad. These programs are just so there's so much potential there for fall prevention programs. And I
Mhm.
think we're just on the precipice of like being able to teach and keep people from falling on their asses all the time.
Right, right. Or just falling into walls.
Yeah, me too. I'm with you on that, Andy. I always bump into
I
my,
take turns too quickly. I gotta be more
yeah,
present.
if I'm walking down the street, like with my husband, I will just bump into him, like just
Right.
bump into him.
Oh yeah, naturally.
So Michelle, how about you? You want to give it a go?
Hello, yes. So my nuggets for this week, or the last couple of weeks. I think so I'm realizing that so much of this, what I'm learning with the feet, is also applicable, obviously, to health in general. And it's really making me think, even like my little one's had a cough, and it's even looking at differently to what I may have done in the past. It's like, what's going on in our life that he could have, that could have been causing this? And it's absolutely amazing when you start thinking about it, because I actually had a decorator in, and in the house has been sprayed with something that's probably not very nice, because I could smell it and it got to my chest. And it's almost just like something really, really simple like that, rather than thinking, well, the body's gone wrong, that no, this is the body's perfect way of doing what it needs to do to constantly, keep them alive. And this is just getting bigger for me. This whole concept is just blowing my mind. And so when I see people that are talking about bunions being genetic and things like that, I really struggle with it. I really struggle with that, because it makes so much sense, to be looking at. So it's the protect, correct, develop thing, I think, that's really stood out to me. The fact that we try and develop something before we've got rid of the splinter in our hand or the glass in our finger, whatever. So that's just been a big thing for me. With my personal practice, I've been getting rid of the table and chairs has changed everything for me. I've got my first pair of barefoot shoes, and it's just becoming a way of life, I think, more than anything. The theory side of things, although I have been watching some YouTube videos, the theory side of things this week and last week has slacked off a little bit. I'm not worried about it. I know I'm going to catch up. I'm looking forward to that week 6, to be honest, to just get it all together. So the thing I was going to choose as well is balance, because I just see words and I understand it, but to try and explain it, I think, I don't know if you want me to try another one, because that's been done.
No, I think it's up to you. It's Foot Nerd's choice today.
Oh, okay. Well, I could pick the resting squat position, but that's quite easy. And I think I would be doing myself a disservice. So I am a bit nervous. Yeah. So, and feel free to prompt me, because this will be, I haven't even tried it. So it's like, I've just got a piece of paper here. So I just want to, I loved that explanation before, by the way. It was just really cool. And
Andy will be happy to help you out.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, I think I might need.
Absolutely.
So in this context, balance is the ability to respond to our environment and challenges in the environment, and keep our center of mass in our support when we're fighting gravity or trying to stay upright with dealing with terrain. So getting balance, which we can, or improving our balance, which can be anytime, just constant practice improves balance, means that we're able to protect ourselves from injury or falling over. And I didn't even think about this before, but I read that even walking requires us to be able to have, balance on one leg, which I've never really thought about before. So balance is a checkpoint on the way to base camp. So it's needed as on the way to foot freedom. And the ability to balance means that we need our feet to act as sensors, which then relays information. And also we need our body to be able to talk to each other, particularly our feet and our hips. So it's the part about the proprioceptors that I just think, okay, you can, if you want to ask me a question and see if I can answer it. They are basically sensors in our skin and within our joints and muscles that tell our brain about where we are, the positions of our body.
Mhm.
And then our brain processes these signals that it's receiving and decides on the best reaction or the best response. And our brain then tells our muscles what to fire. And I suppose from an experience point of view, when I stand on the soulmate and balance, and whether I close my eyes or not, I can feel that happening. It's like I can sense what my foot is on the balance beam. It's sending signals to my brain, and my brain is just so clever. It just fires off these muscles and keeps me upright, keeps me balanced. So it's happening hundreds of seconds. And so then better balance will come from better signals and senses, which then makes sense when we think about the footwear, you know, our feet's ability to sense in contact with the ground, faster signal transmission, faster processing. So this is where I'm reading it now, so I'm cheating a little bit. But also access to more muscles in more positions and finely tuned ability to fire at the right intensity. Balance improves with practice, regardless of our current age or mobility. And yeah, it offers our body a chance to recalibrate with optimal efficiency. So just that's I'm just
great.
reading it now. I feel like I'm just reading.
I think there's a very, very accessible explanation. It's
Mhm.
wonderful. You did great.
Thank you.
And the other thing I wanted to say about, it's interesting because like, I forget, it's like 80% or something like this. I don't know, Andy, if you know this or if anybody else does, but it's like so much of our body's proprioceptors are actually in our ankles and feet, which tells you the job that they're actually designed to do, right? Like we're designed to have all that sensation there to tell us where we are in time and space, where we don't have those amount of proprioceptors in other parts of our body. Does that sound familiar, Andy, to you?
Yes, yeah, I would say. I don't know the exact number either, but
It's
it
a
is
lot,
most of them.
It's a whole bunch, y'all.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so we have Storm and Kirsten, and I'll just leave it up to you. And which one of you wants to take the floor and do your thing?
I can go next.
Do it.
All right. So my nuggets from this past week. The first thing that I noticed was actually, so we got some snow here in New York not too long ago, like a day or two. And I decided, well, I have to go out to my car. So let me just like walk barefoot through the snow. So I did it. And then like after getting through the snow, there was like the concrete, and then there was my car, and then there's concrete again, snow, concrete, and then my house. And even though it was like pretty brutal and like cold to do that, it also felt like the sensations that I was feeling in my feet were a lot louder than they would be outside of those extreme kind of scenarios. So I was thinking to myself, like, well, if the feet are really designed to like handle terrain, then I should probably do more of like when it snows walking through the snow for a little bit, or like walking through like wet, mucky grass, or like I also noticed when I was taking my garbage out one day, there's a little like a gravel, like a sidewalk, but it's like cobblestone-esque, or it's like small pebbles in the cement. And in the past, when I would do that, I would always walk along the grass and like drag the garbage can along but I found myself just walking along it without even thinking about like, oh wait, this actually used to hurt when I did this, and now it just feels like I'm walking. So it's almost like an increase of sensation or the ability to feel sensation, but then also a decreasing in pain sensations as a result of that. So that's been an interesting kind of thing that I've been noticing. The other thing that I've noticed, or I would say the thing that's been like kind of bothersome, is that, so I'll start with by saying like my balance is actually very solid. At this point, I was kind of plateaued at single leg, eyes closed for quite some time, and then I just took like an hour one day, and I was like, nah, I'm just gonna literally, I need to get into level like the other level 2 stances, and I wouldn't let myself do any of them until I got that one down. And so finally, like after some time in that session, I passed and like got to the other stances in level 2, which I personally feel like are a little bit easier. And I worked my way all the way up to ninja stance level. Ninja stance, eyes closed, is what's got my number right now. So that's been feeling really good. But when I do like the single big toe lift, my big toes go inward as I do that. And so like the banded toe lifts have been interesting to work with, because I'm definitely feeling like that small muscle on the outside, like very faintly, but I'm feeling it. But then my thing is like my confusion, that the thing that's come kind of like is my external rotation at the hip is not very good, to the point where like sitting Indian style is like, I'd rather sit 90-90 than sit Indian style. And actually, like I've noticed that I have been sitting 90-90 like as like a go-to, like when I go down to the ground, which is fine. But my thing is like, is my big toe moving inward what's connected to the lack of external rotation, or is the lack of external rotation preventing my toe from being able to be straight when it's lifted? So that's kind of like the thing that I've been like troubleshooting or like trying to figure out. And so yeah, those are my 2 nuggets so far. And then as for the principles, I can do, let's do ground living.
Okay.
So humans, early humans were always a ground living species, and only in modern times have chairs been introduced. And the idea here is that when we interact with the ground, we are forced to expose our joints and our bodies to a multitude of different positions. And we're also influenced to shift positions often, which gives a lot of input to the joints that we wouldn't otherwise get just sitting in chairs. And yeah, I don't know. I'm blanking if there's
That's
like, I'm sure there's more to it, but.
Anybody want to add on to what he's talking about?
Oh yeah. And then so like, all right. So when we sit in chairs, our glutes don't get the chance to fire correctly, which then causes our hamstrings and our calves and our low back to try to pick up for the slack. So adopting more ground living positions will help to mitigate the quieting or the dulling of the glute signal over time, which according to said principle would help us to just experience better mobility overall. And and that's actually, the ground living has been the thing I think that's been impacting me the most. Not necessarily because when I come home, it's like the only time I'm really seated is when I'm driving and when I'm eating. And a lot of times when I'm eating, if depending on what I'm eating, I'll like stand up to eat anyway. But when I like get to my room, it's either I'm sleeping, or that's pretty much the only thing I do in my room is go to sleep. So what I did, which coincided with something my music teacher recommended, was taking all of my instruments out and then just putting them in a way in which I can access them fairly easily. And they're all, like, I'll show you. So right now, like, I have like all my instruments kind of just here. And yeah, and so it's like forcing me to actually be on the ground anyway. And the other day I came home and literally like sat on the ground and ended up like finding something soft and just like passed out. So the ground living has been really beneficial. Also, when I'm at work and training clients, I'm doing a lot of balance work with them. And I'm literally sitting in 90-90 and just like my eyes are just focused on their feet and ankles. And I'm just like, oh, wait, like I'm on the ground like the whole day. And then like the only time I'm standing up is like between clients to like to go to the bathroom. So that's been really eye-opening, because I usually wouldn't spend so much time on the ground. I would usually I'll find something to sit on or something. So that's been super beneficial. And I'm also just noticing how not common it is, you know, even amongst trainers. Like the closest that we get to the ground is like maybe kneeling, but it's very rare that someone's just like chilling in a squat or like chilling in 90-90. And so that's been feeling really good to just like be in a squat. Even if my heels are up, it's like still feeling really comfortable, especially when I'm wearing the barefoot shoes with the toes separated. That's also been huge. I ordered a bunch of toe socks, and when they all get here, I'm throwing away all my traditional socks, because I did take a week to go back to traditional socks and like a regular cheap barefoot shoe. And it felt like I was wearing like Nikes again. It was just like, no, like this is not, like I can't. Once you go there, you just can't go back. It just doesn't feel quite right. So, and then I've been wearing toe spacers at night, and last night I wore them the whole night and woke up and didn't feel like the soreness that I felt the first time I tried to do that. So that's been nice too. But
Amazing.
yeah.
Wonderful. All right, Kirsten.
Hi. Yeah. I listening to what everybody else has to say has really like made me think of a lot for myself, for the nuggets and all that. But Storm, you and I are so different. I mean, clearly we are. Like you are clearly really strong, and as I'm listening to you, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's like, that's totally the opposite for me. Like balance was great, but it was the strength that was missing. Like to do it longer was literally like my feet weren't strong enough to do that. So what I'm finding as we go further along is that my feet are getting stronger. Like I was sore in places that I really didn't know I could be sore, you know, in these last weeks, just from doing the balance, which I totally love. I love the balance part of it, just because it's new and it's exciting. But I realized like, there's really, I mean, I know, right? There's all these muscles in our feet and our ankles that we're just not using regularly, that this is waking up for me. And I love that, you know, so that the balance, because I never was really bad at balance, you know, I guess compared to the general populace, because I thought it was fun. But now with the strength building, it's amazing. It's amazing. And I started this week reading the book Play, and I realized, oh, I really only want to do things that I can make playful, that I can make play. And what has enabled me to like keep coming back and doing my daily practice here and writing in the logbook is that I literally say to myself, it's okay if it's fun. And if you don't like it, what you're doing, stop and just go to something else. And like giving myself permission to make it fun has made it that I want to do it, that I'm okay with it, instead of like this really rigid thing that I have to do every time, which is fun. So I do it. So I do that. Also super fun. And maybe this is, no, it's totally fine. My husband gave me a foot massage 2 nights ago, and it's been like a month since he's done that. And he said, your feet feel different. Like literally,
Interesting.
my feet are different. He said, there's nothing lean about me, but he said, your feet, they're like, they're lean, like they're strong feeling. I'm like, all right, well, we can start there. So, so it's doing something. Like, and I can feel it in my body and I can feel it in my feet, but that was like really wonderful to hear. Like, I'm like, what are you going for here? Like, like that's like the best like compliment you could give me right now with all these things. But he's like, no, I actually do mean it. So our feet are changing with these things. Like we know that in our minds, but to have somebody say that was really powerful. Also, I taught, like I told you, Ruth, like I taught a 3-hour class, a Prepare to Push class, which has some of the elements in it that we're learning. But I realized in my
Wait, but
own,
for those of you that don't know, like, I don't know if Marie and
Oh.
Storm, I don't know who knows that you're a doula or midwife, or is there another word? I don't know.
no, I'm a midwife, actually. I
Midwife.
attend births. Yeah, I'm a midwife. So I also teach a class called Prepare to Push, which I always tell women it should be called like how to stay more comfortable during pregnancy, push more effectively, and heal well afterwards. And of course, like it has a lot of the elements of what we're learning, but it really has a different lens that it's looking through. But what I found for me in teaching the class was first that learning these elements really made it easier for me to express in a more concise manner what I wanted to teach to people. And also in my own body, teaching a class, sitting for 3 hours, that it really felt more comfortable. It felt a lot more, it was doable. And I really didn't think about that I was doing it until afterwards, that it was okay. And then I did a conference, a day-long midwifery conference that was online. And I sat the whole time while I moved. I didn't sit in a chair. And my apprentice as well. So I have a gal that I'm training, like she's also wearing natural footwear and doing these same things. And we had another midwife there who sat in a rocking chair the whole time. So she sat very respectably in a chair the whole time. And I giggled so much as I was going home that day at how the two of us that were sitting on the floor were like toddlers. Like we were moving so much. And I just like laying down, sitting up. I have a rebozo hanging from a beam in the room, and I'm like leaning on it and holding it. And I'm like, okay, well, this is how we get our activity in. And this is why small children have that much mobility. Like they're moving all the time and they don't lose it. And maybe I can get it back.
Before you go on, that there's a change in mindset. I don't know if any of you, it's really subtle, but like you said that thing about like the person was sitting respectfully in the rocking chair, and then how you were like a toddler moving the whole time, which like in my brain as just a footnote student, which I constantly am, it's like, oh my God, I'm fidgeting all the time. And that is like in our culture, it's like there's something wrong with her. She can't sit still. And then I think to myself, well, I'm a foot nerd. I shouldn't be like, this shouldn't be uncomfortable, but it's like, wow, we're actually designed to be moving all the time, like you said, like children, and that's how we keep our mobility. That was so well said, because I still, even though I know all this information, like the world sits in chairs, and when I'm sitting on the ground, I can't sit still because we're not designed to. And that's the whole point, right? Is that like you move when the body asks you to move, and you don't stay seated. But I just wanted to point out about like how the subtle mind, like the mindset shift is such a subtle thing. And I think it takes, for me, because I'm very hard-headed and I'm very influenced by respectability, like, oh my God, I'm going to be different as usual. And so I just appreciate you saying that so much about that.
Yeah. So, and another thing that happened this week is a client said to me, who had taken my class previously, that she took another childbirth class and sat on the floor. And her husband said, you should sit in a chair. And she said, no, my midwife said I should sit on the floor, that it's okay. Like, I was like, oh, I gave her permission to do this wonderful thing just by saying it's good for you. So like one more person is doing it. So that felt really powerful to me. I'm like, oh, good for you. Like you're doing it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Start to go numb sitting. Does anybody else kind of start to go like emotionally numb when you're sitting in a chair too long? So I'm like,
horrible.
yeah, and I don't have anything against a comfy chair. Like I love me a comfy chair, but it just overrides all my move impulses. And then I just get like, I get like slothy, sluggish. Anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
my commutes are soul sucking sometimes. It's just like
Right?
sitting
Soul
in a car
sucking.
for that period of time is really, that's the most drain I've experienced pretty much day
I
to day.
to piggyback off of that car idea, I started noticing myself like instead of letting my left foot stay like in the wheel well where it's like has like designed to stay, I just like bring it up and just put it kind of like in the space right between the seat and the door. And it's so nice. And it's like, damn, I wish my right foot didn't have to be doing. But I definitely noticed that the right leg is tighter more regularly than the left. Even when I'm like sitting 90-90, like left side in front is feels great. Right side in front is like, all right, like go back to the left side. So I definitely, it's interesting because our lives are so like unbalanced in like the things that we do.
Mhm.
Kirsten, I'm sorry, I interrupted and went on a
No.
tangent.
I love it. It was a great one. So we really are all turning into toddlers. I think that's the way we are. We're moving differently in our cars and not liking sitting still. So I love that. I didn't know when you said that, like what I wanted to teach. And I realized that I almost like didn't pay any attention to the pain thing. I mean, I did pay attention to it, but I didn't, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to talk about pain. I don't feel a lot of pain. I can't, but I guess in that I do want to go back and like, I'll talk about it because I don't have much experience in my own body, but I realize like I hold it at the idea of it like, okay, you don't have to worry about it. Like I'm a midwife, like I see pain all the time, right? But I see it in a different way. So when it was Michelle talking about, no, anyway, sorry, everybody's names. But anyway, so I guess what I would like to talk about in pain is like, I recognize that pain is a signal that we're getting from our body that potentially something is wrong. Like if we look at it also through that midwifery lens, that pain does not always mean that something is wrong. And what we do need to look at when we're looking at pain is our own perception of it. And are we just like not wanting to be tolerant of any pain to get the message that we're supposed to be getting from pain? Or could it mean something else? Could it mean like Nick says in those videos, like that we're on the edge, like we're pushing to where we should be? Like, is it good pain? Like giving us a message that we're working hard enough? Is it like in labor? Like I tell ladies, like stronger is better. Stronger is going to get you where you want to be faster, right? So to just like switch our idea that pain actually can be good. And I'm not saying in any way that we're being taught that pain is bad, because any message that we are receiving is good. But that we need to be curious about pain, just like in our first principles, right? We need to be curious about what other people are talking about. We need to be curious about these things that we're feeling, and trying to figure out like, why am I getting that? Like going back to that 90-90 and trying it and figuring out like, why does that feel painful? Why do I not want to sit in that manner? But that pain is good, can be a signal that something is wrong and we need to go back and do things differently and train less or train more. But that really all pain is a message, neither good nor bad, because it can actually be a signal of one or the other. So yeah, anyway, it's just a different lens to look at pain.
Damn, you people are good.
Oh.
I love this so much. That's wonderful. Yeah.
And I just say, I love that you're a midwife, because I was thinking the other day about, hip mobility and and my own limits that I've experienced, depending as well on not just my mobility, but how much of my body's in the way sometimes. But for birth, I mean, this is huge. This is so huge, because I had 2 contrasting births. I had a C-section where the pain was taken away, basically. So I was like, and then one with absolutely nothing here in the home, where the midwife sat outside, because I wanted to. My body did it. My body just did what it was naturally supposed to do. But anyway, but yeah, that's amazing, because it comes back again to the sensory aspect. The pain is a message, and then whatever position I was in when I was birthing here in the house, and being able to move my hips was just like what was needed to open to allow the baby to come through. So I just get really excited about how all of this links to every part of life, improving these experiences, these natural experiences anyway.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Oh, and the other thing is, I said, Storm, I've got my drum here and my guitar, and it's true. It's like having the beams and everything. It's just like everything. I'll use it because it's just here, and I sit here and I play or balance, whatever. I haven't quite balanced and played yet, but you never know.
Oh my gosh.
Quick,
Yeah.
like on the pain thing really quick. So I learned recently that pain lives on the same spectrum as pleasure. So when we're feeling in that intense amounts of pain, it actually only takes a mental decision to experience it as pleasure to like actually make that mental switch. And a lot of times, like I've done it a couple times while taking cold showers where I'm just like, oh, this hurts so much. And then I'm just like, wait, but if it hurts, that means it also feels good. And then the wave of just like whatever comes over, I'm just like, oh, okay, that was pretty worth it. So just
Well, listen, it's the top of the hour, and I can't thank you. I think these calls are amazing, y'all. And so I just want to say thank you for showing up. Thank you for sharing your nuggets. And thank you for teaching and being brave to teach the thing that, makes you uncomfortable. I think that it's important to just practice, and it's just great to take an hour to do that. So, and every time, even if it's repetitive, we hear things in a different way, or something like Kirsten added and Storm added to a topic, like we each add our own background and experience to it. And I don't know about you all, but I just get something so nourishing from the calls, as well as like just being like super precise, and we go right in. So if you have questions, if you need to go, like, thank you for being here. I want to ask if there are any objections, if they want to use our proof of work call, maybe on the Restore to Explore podcast, because there's so much good information in here and so much good of your experience and stuff, that if they wanted to edit some of the stuff out, would anybody have objections to that? If one person objects, we won't do it. And you don't have to say it publicly. You could also message me privately if you have any. If there are no objections, then we would just put this into like the public archives for anybody to listen to, and to kind of be edited out pieces of it for sharing with our communities and such. So with that being said, we can say our goodbyes. I will stay on for a few minutes longer if you have questions about anything, programming, anything about Slack, anything about the new community Kajabi, anything logistically about GitHub or what you're doing, or the Google files, anything like that. I'll be here for the next 5 minutes or so, and we can talk about that. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, and I love you lots.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Kirsten, actually, I just wanted to say really quick that